The effect of your words is only as strong as your weakest component. The most vulnerable territory in our speech is the beginning and the ending of our sentences. I believe that knowing how to end your sentences well is one of the highest impact points for sounding articulate. If there was a single modification you could make that would charge your words with impact and strength, it would be learning how to end your sentences. Let's watch these examples.
More than just a few lunch counters open, more than gaining justice in the courts in a few situations, but in every situation.
You spoke a moment ago about
if you do not regulate production and trade, you will have peaceful cooperation and harmony and justice among men.
You are certainly enough.
It's common for us ordinary communicators to quickly lose vibrancy in our speaking as we approach the ending of our thought. Vibrancy in both our word selection and our vocal inflection. Often the thought we present is of great substance, but unfortunately what people remember is what is most recent. Each word you speak lives only so long in your listener's mind before it dissolves from memory, and the strongest words are often the words that are the most emotionally relevant or the latest. And to leave people with a rough, coarse sentence after delivering some mind-bending insight is like serving a delicious meal that has a bad aftertaste. Your sentence doesn't have to be this grand crescendo that combines all disconnected points into this miraculous moment of sharpness and clarity, but it should feel complete. It should feel like a bookend to your thoughts. The first way we can learn this is through reducing erosion tags. Erosion tags are feeble phrases tagged to the close of our statement to taper off the discussion. These include, and yeah, that's my opinion. So yeah, that's kind of what I think. That's what I got, and yeah. These phrases ambush us and introduce uncertainty and insecurity into our speech. But that's just my opinion. Do you understand how a weak ending can undermine the integrity of your entire idea? A few careless words can erode a great many careful ones. Do you also see how when you pause, your mind as a listener replays the last thing I said? Our minds are in a state of consuming the speaker's words, and the second that it doesn't have something new to feast upon, it returns to feast upon the last thing that it heard. That's why the words we finish on are incredibly important. One of the techniques that I've learned to prune erosion tags from my speaking is the silent period. The silent period consists of placing a silent mental period after each of your sentences. Say it aloud in your mind. Period. What this does is give you that second of time needed to dissolve the temptation of wanting to put a black eye on your sentence with an erosion tag. The silent period helps your brain establish an official end to your sentence. When you hear yourself speak in complete sentences, it's easy to thread that momentum forward into future sentences. The opposite is also true. When you surrender to a weak, pitiful ending, it makes it hard to begin a new sentence with confidence. The second approach that can enhance the conclusion of our sentences is to tether our thoughts to eternal elements. What does this entail? What are eternal elements? Well, skilled speakers have mastered the art of connecting their ideas to timeless themes of hope, fate, destiny, love, life, mortality. These themes are referred to as eternal elements because they persist through space and time and transcend the timeline of our short life on Earth. They lend a sense of depth and cosmic significance to our words. Here's an example of Ronald Reagan casting his sentence in an eternal element.
All of these are things that yes, we can trim the budget. There's enough fat in the federal government that if you rendered it, you could wash the world.
You took it.
When he spoke, did you notice how the audience felt the gravity of his words? Reagan tethered his statement to the world, a somewhat vague eternal element, and it brought a weight to his words. It showed that he has a relationship with something beyond the trivial and transitory themes that are often the common topics of discussion. Some time ago, I embarked upon a quest to study the most compelling closing lines in all of literature. My goal was to learn what qualities made them powerful and soul-penetrating. And after an extensive online search, I was able to assemble the top 10 most impactful closing lines according to public opinion. Here are several of them in no particular order. He was soon borne away by the waves and lost in darkness and distance. His soul swooned slowly as he heard the snow falling faintly through the universe and faintly falling like the descent of their last end upon the living and the dead. It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It is a far, far better rest that I go to than I have ever known. My life amounts to no more than one drop in a limitless ocean. Yet what is any ocean but a multitude of drops? At the core of these memorable lines lies a deep connection with elements that are timeless, earthly, and universally relatable. Wave, darkness, snow, currents, past, future, ocean, drops. These words evoke strong imagery. However, their power extends far beyond mere imagery. They represent experiences and elements with which every person has interacted. This is why these eternal elements are powerful in your speaking, because it demonstrates your ability to capture a fundamental part of this world with words. It's been said before that one of the most potent phrases to end on is "until the very ends of the earth." Because in our increasingly distracted and detached society, people are out of touch with the ability to tether their vision to something beyond the fleeting trends and trinkets. We want to be aligned with something beyond ourselves, and we admire those few who can articulate that with words. Now, it's not necessary you weave eternal elements into every conversation. You wouldn't say, "I'm off to the store and I won't return until the dawn breaks on a new day, until the world's ending." That's absurd. You don't have to blend the epic heroism of fighting the forces of evil with filling a plastic bag with carrots and cilantro. But it is important that you recognize how powerful speakers enrich their thoughts. There is no revered speech in history that has not in some way seasoned its message with eternal elements. The first action for this lecture is to read through the Eternal Elements resource below. This resource includes a list of those themes that are commonly responsible for sentences sounding weighty. Before you read each sentence aloud, imagine that those words were the last words you said on earth. Your final words. How would you say them? Would you deliver them with majesty and passion, or would you skim through the sentence like reading the ingredients on a nutrition label? I'm an advocate of reading greatly to speak greatly. And this exercise will begin building what I like to think of as a familiar reflex with delivering great ideas. Eventually, you'll begin to do this naturally in your speech. The third way we can enrich the endings of our sentences is by using downward inflection. Numerous studies have explored the impact of lowering the pitch at the end of sentences. One study from Psychology Today found that lowering the pitch at the end of a sentence can triple the speaker's perceived confidence in their claims. Politicians, both men and women, were considered in this study, and they were considered more trustworthy and electable when they ended their sentences in a lower register. A downward inflection at the end of a sentence conveys confidence and authority. Now, this does not mean we have to reduce the delivery of our entire sentence to a lower register, simply that we end on a pitch lower than our delivery. Da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. Listen to the following examples.
It's why I did Snowpiercer, you know, any storyteller who has a very strong preference. I like people with strong preferences, no matter what they are, in any capacity, even outside of this industry.
What I was saying a moment ago, it would appear that philosophy is merely incomplete science, and there are people who don't like that view. They want to have science have a sphere, philosophy have a sphere to itself.
Many of us have the tendency to end our sentences with what is known as uptalk or upspeak, a speech pattern where the intonation or pitch rises at the end of a sentence as if posing a question, This pattern can transform statements of fact into something that sounds uncertain. My name is Joseph. I'm thrilled to be working with you. My name is Joseph. I'm thrilled to be speaking with you. Uptalk creates a sense of incompleteness, as if the sentence were galloping toward some destination that we never arrive at. It lacks finality. Imagine if Gandalf from Lord of the Rings used uptalk in his declarations. So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All they have to do is decide what to do with the time that is given to us. It wouldn't feel as weighty or as rich in meaning as if it were delivered on a downward inflection. Uptalk often occurs when we become nervous or too conscious of ourselves. When we're stressed, our voice tends to rise in pitch. Uptalk can also stem from a desire to be humble or unintimidating in our speech, especially when we're talking about something that we could boast of. We might have a desire to soften the blow of our opinion, and we default to uptalk as a way of softening the blow. I think everyone is approaching this wrong. I tried that method yesterday and it wasn't as successful. Regardless of if you struggle with uptalk or not, I would suggest that you perform the second action for today's video. Identify and emulate a voice that possesses the vocal quality that you desire. Here's a list I've created for this program of notable male and female speakers who are known for their exceptional acoustic identity. I would encourage you to identify one of the voices from this list and practice their sentences mimicking their tonality. I'll share with you the voice model that I've trained my voice after. That is the television writer Rod Serling. Every night for a few months, I would play through his interviews and pause every few sentences to mimic the nuances of his delivery, particularly his rhythm and pitch. The instinct of creativity must be followed by the act, the physical act of writing it down for a sense of permanence.
Instinct of creativity must be followed by the act, the physical act of putting it down for a sense of permanence.
Now, it's not mine or should it be anyone's intent to pass off someone else's acoustic identity as your own. This exercise is simply meant to be a walk in the verbal tracks of a great voice. Many of us are only acquainted with our voice as it's always sounded, unaware of its range and capabilities. And finding a vocal model of excellence can help expand your understanding of what's possible with your vocal cords. When you begin to realize your vocal potential, communication takes on more character and weight, and that weight is most evident in the ending of our sentences. Those endings can possess the charge of lightning, the force of 1,000 hurricanes, as you tell the world that this is my voice.